Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into the Monday edition of Inside the 20 with myself and Keith Niebuhr. We will do our absolute best to get as much recruiting tale to you inside the 20-minute mark. Keith, how the hell are you, big dog?
I'm good. I'm going to be rotating mute on and off as my dryer runs overtime in the background. But no, it's good. I mean, we're getting ready for Hugh Freeze's first big junior day at Auburn. And so there's going to be a lot of interest from the fan base, a lot of excitement from recruits. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And, we got a lot to discuss, believe it or not.
Got a lot to discuss. A lot of guys coming in. Before we get to it, Keith, I know you no longer are looking for a car, but if you know somebody who is, we know where to send them, don't we? Caleb Schofield, folks, if you're looking for a car, new or used, Mike Patton Auto in LaGrange, Georgia, give Caleb Schofield a call, 334-531-0996. New Ford, Lincoln, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Hondas. Fantastic used car lot, folks. Very diverse selection. All used cars have to pass a multi-point inspection before they even consider putting them on the lot. Then they back all the used cars with a free 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. The new cars come even more guaranteed with a free lifetime powertrain warranty, unlimited time, unlimited mileage. And if you're not in the market for a car, but you know somebody who is, send them to Caleb. He'll send you $300. Pretty good deal. Caleb Schofield, folks, Mike Patton Auto on the Fayette Parkway in LaGrange, Georgia, 334-531-0996. Keith, first big junior day of the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn is upon us, or it will be soon. Saturday, dozens, I think it's safe to say, dozens of top recruits from Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, you name it. These guys are scheduled to come in. We're still building the list. We're still making confirmations with these recruits, but some of the guys so far we have confirmed include, I think I counted about 8 four-star guys. And listen, I'm expecting that number to be doubled by the end of the week.
Yeah, it's going to go way up. I mean, here's the thing. It's a new staff, and they're getting to know, when I say staff, I mean behind the scenes people. They're still getting to know people like you and me. Are these people that can be trusted? Are they, reporters? And so information about recruits isn't percolating out as much as maybe it used to. Yeah.
It takes time to build trust.
We're having to work a lot of, listen, that's the way it works. I mean,
sure.
We're not going to, this is a no BS zone, right? And so we're trying to find out from every kid possible who's coming. We know there's going to be surprises. There always are. They offered a quarterback last week. I got to pronounce the name. Jake
Merklinger. Yep.
Merklinger from Savannah. Now, this guy is apparently the real deal. Yep. But we don't know whether he's going to make it. He hasn't gotten back to us yet. And so, this is a real chance for Hugh Freeze to set the tone early. Listen, they're behind. Believe it or not, even though getting there in December, you're behind in this day and age because schools have been recruiting these younger guys for over a year, right? Mm-hmm. So you're behind. So you're playing catch up. Well, this is a good weekend to get close to caught up, right? Show them the new facilities. Obviously, that's going to blow away a junior. A guy that's been on 100 visits, he's seen everything. But a kid that's, just entering the second semester of his junior season, he hasn't been on that many visits. A few, games and stuff like that. But so there's a chance to still have that wow factor with them with the facilities. Then it's explaining to these recruits, laying out your vision. What we as a program, Hugh Freeze, if I'm Hugh Freeze, here's what I myself and my program, this is the vision laid out. If you're a receiver, this is what I look for. And this is why I like you. If you're a quarterback, look at what I've done with Malik Willis. Look what I did, the success I had with Chad Kelly and even Bo Wallace at Ole Miss. And so forth and so on. In fact, yesterday, Jeffrey, I was watching the AFC divisional game. Cincinnati Bengals leading tackler. You probably remember this kid. Mike Hilton was a 3-star running back, diminutive, 5'9" running back at Sandy Creek High School, which had, Jaquay Williams. I forget the names. He wasn't one of the bigger name guys.
I think that's where Josh Holsey went.
Holsey went to.
I'm thinking it's another
same area. But right. A bunch of guys came out of that school, and he was one of the lower rated guys. Well, Ole Miss signed him, even though he was a running back. They signed him as a DB. He played a ton as a freshman. Yesterday was the leading tackler in the divisional game. Has 6 years in the NFL, and he's making about $2.5 million a year. So if you're Hugh Freeze, you say, hey, not only have I been able to develop talent at receiver and quarterback, but I've been able to identify talent at other positions. And there's your prime example of that right there. So it was a big weekend for Hugh Freeze because also Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a tight end that they loved at Ole Miss that Hugh Freeze brought in, again, unheralded guy in high school, now, an NFL star and was a first-round draft pick. And so you're able to, as he's getting to know these players, these prospects, this is what I can do. This is who I've developed. This is who I've evaluated when other people misevaluated. And then also just getting to know him. When Walker White, the four-star quarterback recruit that we think is probably one or two on the Auburn board, visited a couple weekends ago, you spent a lot of time driving him and his family around campus, I think in a golf cart. And so he's got to continue to show that personal touch. One thing that we see that Gus had a lot, the family vibe that Auburn sells, Hugh's all into that. All right. That's Hugh Freeze personified. So it's kind of a continuation of what Gus Malzahn did. And we're seeing a lot of early successes. Could somebody pop this weekend? Maybe a Jaden Lewis could be close, four-star cornerback from in-state. So there's a lot going on. And obviously a lot of names are going to pop up this week. And even more, you and I are going to be out there Saturday, and we're going to look at each other and go, I had no idea this guy was coming. There's going to be a lot of those too. So obviously people are going to want to stand by and see, keep checking out the site, see who's there.
We talked a little bit about this before we started the show, but I've been surprised at the number of recruits that know who Hugh Freeze is, have heard of Hugh Freeze. We couldn't probably say that 2 years ago with Brian Harsin. These guys down in the South, but his track record, his history at Ole Miss, at Liberty, the media he got from Malik Willis, and the success he had at Liberty. I don't know if that transcended into being able to come back, excuse me, and be a fairly familiar name to these guys. Have you been surprised, Keith, with the fewer who, I don't know much about him.
So, you know why? And here's why. Maybe, but I'm surprised, but maybe we shouldn't be surprised. And here's why, Jeffrey, because one, we should have thought about this. Every high school coach in the South knows Hugh Freeze. They love this guy. They love former high school coaches. A lot of them like Gus, Art Briles. I mean, guys that took their path, they're going to have a little bit of an admiration for, right? And so if you're a recruit, your head coach is probably saying, hey, let me tell you something about Hugh Freeze. I know about Hugh Freeze, okay? So there's probably been some elements of that. But then success with Malik Willis. People know that he coached Evan Ingram. People know that he coached DK Metcalf. I think maybe he's one of the 2 or 3 highest paid receivers in the NFL right now. So, word's gotten out. They're working hard. They're beating the drum. They're on the trail a lot. A year ago, we noticed during this January period that there were several days before Brian Harsin actually took his first trip.
Oh yeah.
First few days, he didn't even go on the road, even though you were allowed to during that January window. Hugh Freeze was on the road day one. That first morning, bright and early, was at Little Rock Central in Arkansas, home to that 4-star quarterback I mentioned, Walker White. So I think it's just a combination of things, Jeffrey. But you're right. Now, it seems like a lot of these people know who he is. And I'm going to point to the fact I think that these kids' high school coaches are telling them, yes, that's the guy that beat Bama. They're knowing things that
they couldn't have learned on their own, right? I mean,
yeah, you wouldn't think. So I talked to a kid yesterday, John Wayne Oliver, great name for an offensive lineman out of Nashville. And he said, hey, man, there's not a lot of people that have beat Nick Saban at Bama. Well, somebody told him that. Now, it could have been one of the current Auburn guys, but he had actually been Hugh Freeze started to recruit this young man, an offensive lineman that Auburn offered about maybe a week ago. Hugh Freeze started to recruit him when he was at Liberty. So they already had a little bit of a relationship. So one thing Hugh Freeze was doing at Liberty was he was actually, unlike a lot of the smaller G5s, he was identifying talent early, getting guys to visit Liberty before the big schools could come in with them, Jeffrey, and getting to know them a little bit. We've seen that a few times. Some of these guys knew who he was. The quarterback, Walker White, knew all about him before he'd even visited Auburn. So I don't know. Again, it's got to be a combination of things. High school coaches, messaging now with the Auburn staff. The Auburn recruiting staff's obviously hitting these kids up and telling them about Hugh Freeze, but a lot of them want to meet him, but they seem to know about him.
They're too young to know about The Blind Side, right?
Yeah, I don't think that movie made him look great either. I mean, you got the mom telling him how to coach, basically. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean,
so he was so he was the head coach, right?
Yeah. So isn't it Briarcrest in Memphis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on, Bert. Stop with the trick plays and run the damn ball. That was him. That was the coach. He was the coach.
I believe so. That part, and apparently, they're really close. By the way, I mean that family, the Toohey family, I think was at his introductory press conference. By the way, the young son in the movie, I think his name was S.J. Toohey. I believe he works on Gus Malzahn's staff at UCF. So big for I hear great things about him. Great kid. I guess not a kid anymore, but. So Hugh Freeze, I mean, he's connecting well with kids early, quite frankly. He is. I mean, we're seeing. I mean, look what he did.
You called this when they hired him, though. You said he's going to be the guy out there holding the babies, kissing the babies, taking the pictures, and he has been. He's very personable.
I don't know whether he likes doing this stuff, Jeffrey, but he appears like he does. Like he's like Bruce Pearl in a sense,
right?
The Pied Piper. I hope I'm getting that right, but. Whether he enjoys it or not, I don't know. I'm not inside his brain, but he comes across like he enjoys it. He comes across like it's natural, and perception's reality, right? And so,
absolutely.
Everybody that said this guy would be a perfect fit for Auburn, and you and I didn't know. Maybe you knew more than I didn't know. They might have been right. Now we'll see. Look, you got to go win games. You still got to get a quarterback. You still got to get some offensive line. There's a lot of work to be done. But again, so far we're seeing enough signs. To all the pieces, all these things are coming together, and it feels like this is a natural fit. A guy,
perfect fit.
Yes, and
we'll see if he can win. But off the field,
look, ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to.
Right.
I never forget. Again, here's my Florida point of reference because that's where I went to school. But when Ron Zook was hired, he embraced the community and he was shaking hands and high five. Hey, listen, he didn't win. Okay.
Yeah.
And if he ain't winning, it ain't going to matter. If Brian Harsin wins, if he's winning, ain't nobody care. Nobody's going to care right now, let's say. If he'd gone 8-5 and then followed that up with a 9-win season, people say, oh, come on. Because remember, a year ago, people were
leave him alone.
And then he got the doors blown off by Penn State. And he's like, well, hey, him doing his own thing ain't working, okay? So we're all sort of hypocritical in that sense. But no, I think again, back to the recruiting element, he's connecting with people. How many more photos has he been in when he's visiting these schools? I don't know whether it's him telling the coaches, but people certainly like taking photos with him, right? He's
got his hand in his pocket in every one of them.
We're not exactly getting a list of where they're going, and nobody is on the road, but they put it out there every morning. Hey, New Orleans, Tampa, Miami. They're kind of leading the horse to the water. I like the messaging on Twitter that they've done too. And in Brian Harsin's defense, they were pretty active on Twitter, but it was a lot of graphics. Yep. That's fine. These guys are retweeting people like me and you. Tweeting people like you. They followed people like us. There's interaction, and the last guy didn't feel he was kind of the king in the castle. You know what I mean? He didn't. I don't think he felt like he needed to kind of mingle with the common.
He was really Wonka.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it worked for him at his other school. It just didn't work at Auburn. But Hugh's a lot different. Hugh's used to what do you got? What do you?
I was thinking. I mean, that's probably how Nick Saban is. I can't imagine Nick Saban being out there. And I feel like that's kind of what Brian Harsin, he was a wannabe.
When Nick Saban goes to high schools, man, I'm telling you, he was 5 minutes from me just a couple of days ago. He was at Jarris McIntyre's school, the former Auburn player that you and I know really well. And he's there taking photos, shaking hands. He ain't the most successful coach in the history of college football for nothing. Let's put that way. You know what I mean? So he gets that element. Now, he may be Mr. Serious back at Alabama, but when he's out on the road recruiting, he's got the human touch, is what they tell me about Nick Saban. And Hugh Freeze seems to have that everywhere, and
where Saban doesn't maybe as much so with like media personalities.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of the vibe I was getting from Harsin. He was.
And I don't think, again, I've never dealt with Nick Saban personally, so it would be unfair for me to criticize how he deals.
Yeah, this is an outsider's point of view.
He may be great off the can. I mean, I don't know, but what we're seeing is with Hugh that he's understanding the elements of being nice to coaches, high school coaches, chopping it up, as they say, with the kids, nice to people like me and you, interacting with the fans. He seems to get it. Now, look, come August 1st, he's going to be laser focused on the season. He ain't going to be out at Publix kissing babies and shaking hands, okay? He's going to be working on the team. But during this part of the year, when you're out and about, he seems to get it. He seems to be able to connect with people. And again, you're not just connecting with the recruits, you're connecting with their families, right?
Oh, wait.
The other thing is we wanted to know, Jeffrey, how would people react to what he went through? Look, he put himself, it was self-inflicted, right? What happened at Ole Miss, all self-inflicted. How would people react to that? Well, Walker White, again, that top QB target, told me, he said, I love the redemption story. Well, that might be your answer. Now, look, that's not going to be the same for everybody, okay? Some people are going to look at the situation differently. Sure. But the people he's recruiting, looks like he's identifying people that kind of fit, his culture as well. So it's been fascinating to watch, and they're recruiting all over the country. I talked to a tight end from Arizona yesterday, and he said, I'm thinking about visiting. I'm going to have a story on him later today. I'm thinking about, I don't know. It's 50-50. But, man, I look at what this guy's done. I look at what they've done with tight ends, and, I'm in Phoenix, and they're in Auburn, and it's in the SEC. And so they've identified that they got to win. They can't get crushed in the state of Alabama, right, Jeffrey?
Correct.
What Bama's going to get its dudes. But every year there's guys that leave the state then end up in the NFL later on. And you say, well, why in the hell didn't Auburn recruit this guy? And it seems like they're trying to not let that happen anymore. We've seen the emphasis in Georgia. We've seen the emphasis in South Florida and Tampa. And I think Hugh Freeze may be down in Tampa this week. I'm trying to find that out.
He's headed to South Florida this morning. And I think he's going to work his way up.
Yeah. And not only that, they are still recruiting nationally.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not going to, what he's not going to do is he's not going to say, this linebacker in California, let's go after him and fly over 600 linebackers to get him. He ain't dumb. Okay.
What do you think is going to come out of this junior day, Keith? What's a great day for Auburn? Saturday night when we're wrapping up our coverage from the day, what's a great day look like for you?
You'd love to have a commitment or two, obviously. Mm-hmm. But just like the Big Cat weekend, the commitment.
Or at least one that, how kids are now, at least one that we're hearing buzz about Sunday or Monday. Yes.
But kids are not, just like Big Cat weekend, people are always like, oh, if we didn't get 8 commitments, what are we doing? Well, you're laying the groundwork. So laying the groundwork to get all these same kids back that you like for spring practice. And then you start closing some deals then.
That's right.
I think lay the groundwork. Step one was going to see all these kids. Step 2, getting them to visit. Step 3, hitting a home run this weekend. Step 4, getting them back for spring practice. Step 5, getting them to commit between A-Day and the start of summer.
That's right.
And so just when we're interviewing people afterwards, did they connect with these guys? And were they blown away by the vision and the facilities? And if the answer is yes, yes, and yes, then that's probably a pretty good sign.
Got a good chance.
You got a good chance. That's right.
Be a serious contender, man. We'll be tracking it all. Hey, we're going to be back Wednesday morning. We're going to start getting more specific with some of these guys. We'll have more confirmations of guys that will be visiting on Saturday. But, yeah, Auburn's going to have this big junior day, man. It's the first big one of the Hugh Freeze era. We'll be all over it the rest of the week. Keith and I both will be back Wednesday to break some of these guys down. We'll also be back Friday for a more in-depth recruiting show. So we appreciate everybody. Hey, thanks. Hey, Keith, did you see last night we hit 5,000 on our YouTube page? Really? Sure did. Hey, if you
the night I took off is the night you went over the. Do I need to? Do I need to
get sick more?
I was sick.
Yeah.
Watched 6 football games, hit 3,000 golf balls over the weekend. But yeah, I was. I just.
We will not be sick.
That's great. That's great.
We want. Hey, if you haven't liked and subscribed to our YouTube page, please do so. We would really appreciate it. It helps us out. Don't know how, but it does. Thanks again, everybody, for listening, for watching. We appreciate you. For Zach in the back, for Keith, I'm Jeffrey Lee. Man, y'all stay out of that left lane. See ya.